I'm not even really sure where to begin with this, to be honest with you, but I guess I'll give an explanation as to who Eric July is, Young Rippa, the Rippaverse. I guess I'll start there. Because some of you may not be aware of who this guy is, what he does, and I'll just explain it for you. So, Eric July, Young Ripper 59, is a YouTuber, a quote-unquote musician, I guess you could say. He is a comic book writer, comic book artist, and I'll be completely honest with you. For a long time, I followed this guy probably for, 2 or 3 years maybe? I followed this guy. And while I did not always agree with his politics, I did agree with a lot of his stances when it came to the entertainment industry, to what was happening in Hollywood, especially what was happening in the comic book industry with the lack of creativity, the laziness in the comic book industry, how stagnant the comic book industry was. And I agreed with him on a lot of that stuff. So Eric July went out and he decided, you know what, I'm going to do my own comic book. I'm going to write my own story. And he was very successful. He launched a comic book called ISOM and did a crowdfunding situation where he made over $3 million to create this comic book. And it was wildly successful. And I supported him because you guys know that I believe that in the decentralization of entertainment. I think that Hollywood has had its grip on entertainment for way too long. And I think with how stagnant they've become, how lazy they've become, how corrupt they've become, I think the idea of decentralizing entertainment, of people doing their own thing, I think it's a good idea overall. So I was very supportive of Eric's efforts. Very supportive. I thought it was a good thing he was doing. And I still like the idea of it. I still think it's a great idea. I put out a video not that long ago talking about how I think AI is going to be a tool that really helps people to bring their stories to life. People that ordinarily cannot bring their stories to life are going to be able to do it using AI because AI makes it so much easier. And I think that's really going to help with the decentralization of entertainment. So I did a video on that. So I still believe in that idea. But ever since the successful campaign of ISOM #1, Eric July's first issue of his comic book, he has been on a downward spiral. He's been on a downward spiral. And his politics have gotten worse. His mentality has gotten worse. His ego has become incredibly inflated. And as you see in the title below, Pride Before a Fall, his pride has increased exponentially. And it's turned him into, and he's always been a divisive figure, but my God, this has gotten ridiculous. And even people who were really for this guy, really supportive of this guy, have started to turn on him. Some of his own fans, his own customers, have started to turn on him because he's become even more arrogant, even more egotistical, blinded by ego. And also, he's incredibly greedy. So Eric July, somebody that describes himself as a libertarian and an anarcho-capitalist, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean, he's really, really devolved into a major asshole. I mean, it's bad, bro. It's really, really bad what this guy has become. So where do I start with the controversy? Well, you know what? Let's start with Ripper's comic. All right, ISOM. The first campaign for ISOM issue 1 made over $3 million. Congratulations. You hit the jackpot, sir. You found the golden goose egg for a creator, for an independent creator. All right. I'm working on my own story, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the stream. But I'm working on my own story. And if I was to hit $3 million, I would be over the freaking moon, dude. I would be taking the majority of that, putting it into a safe mutual fund, and I'd be living off the interest for the rest of my life. I would be ecstatic. I would be ecstatic if I made that much money. But apparently that's not good enough for him. All right. So he does this ISOM issue, and people are hyping it up and everything. You got his political allies. Now, let me explain who his allies are. So his allies have been Nerdrotic, if you guys know who they are. It's been Az, The Blaze. This guy works for Glenn Beck. Comicsgate was his ally for a while, but there's been some drama there as well. We'll talk about that. But, you know, the usual suspects that you would expect to be aligned with somebody like this. But I swear, man, like this thing, they're hyping it up. The comic comes out, and I don't ever hear them talking about the comic book. I don't hear them actually talking about the story of ISOM. They're just hyping up how much it's a financial success. Oh, he made $3 million. The crowdfunding campaign was a success. You know, like he's really breaking ground here. He's going to be the next Stan Lee. And nobody's talking about the story. Nobody's talking about, you know, how good this story is, how good the characters are, how good it's written. I'm not hearing anything about that. I'm like, listen, talk to me about the story. And nobody's doing it. All these allies of his, nobody's doing it. And then people actually get the comic book and they read the story. And it's really freaking bad. It's really freaking bad. And number one, he's overcharging for it. This dude is charging $35. $35 for this comic. Which is, I mean, good grief, man. It's not, it's definitely not worth $35. I can go out right now and I can buy a Marvel or DC comic for $5. And given the stories in those comics, especially in the modern era, in the last few years, they've not been worth $5, okay? In all fairness. But I for damn sure ain't paying $35 for freaking ISOM. So no one's talking about the story. They're just hyping this guy up because he's one of them, right? You know, he's sticking it to the woke Marvel and the woke DC. And I'm like, I want to know what the story is here. So people actually do get a hold of the comic. They start talking about the story, and it's not that good. There's a lot of, you know, errors in as far as like the punctuation, as far as like the story goes, the spelling goes, and it's just not that good. So people, you know, this story comes out and it's not that good. It's got a bunch of errors. It's got a bunch of spelling mistakes. There's no structure here. It ignores the 3-act structure. You got this character ISOM. Nobody knows what his powers is. It's a superhero comic. Nobody really understands what his powers is. There's a whole bunch of mystery boxes here. It's like you're reading a comic by J.J. Abrams. There's like a bunch of mystery comics. There's no motivation for the character. Like he gets like ISOM gets disrespected by somebody, and like the conflict becomes like, oh, I gotta earn my respect back. It's dumb. It's not relatable whatsoever, and it's just really, really boring. It's really, really boring. So I'm like, okay, so this is trash, basically. ISOM 2 comes out. The campaign does pretty well, not as well as the first one. He launched another, it's like an extension, like Alpha Core, and he got like $500,000. All right, good for him. I mean, I'd be happy with that as well. But, like, nobody knows what's going on in this universe. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't know, like, this guy is like, he's on his own hype. And then you got people that are calling him out. Like, they're criticizing this. They're trying to point things out. And some of his own allies, or at least former allies, are, trying to give him good criticism and stuff. You have Ethan Van Shriver, who is like the head of Comicsgate. And he's trying to give some pointers to Eric, like, listen, you need to do this, you need to do that. And this is a comic book veteran. He's a veteran of the industry, been working in comics for decades, worked for DC, worked on Green Lantern. He's trying to help Eric out here, and Eric's not hearing any of it. Eric's taking it all personally and stuff. It's like, the dude cannot take criticism. His ego will not allow him to take criticism. His pride is harmed by every little, negative thing that people have to say about the comic. And again, we're talking about Ethan Van Shriver here, who is a veteran in the comic book industry. It's like, you might want to listen to this guy. You might want to take some pointers. He does his own crowdfunding. He's got his own comic, Cyberfrog. And Eric just won't have any of it. And then they start getting into like what the movement is about, what the culture war is about. And, Eric's like, oh, it's all about making money. We got to make money. And Ethan's like, no, dude, it's about creativity. It's about writing a good story. It's like, yes, money is important. Obviously, if you're running a business, you want to make money, obviously. But at the same time, you want to put out a quality product. You want to put out a good product. And that's not what ISOM is. But Eric is hyping it up like it is. And his prices are freaking ridiculous. Actually, hold on, we need to skip ahead a couple of tabs. This is going to be a little bit disorganized tonight, but freak it. Let's actually jump over to Eric's website. And I'll show you how ridiculous some of this stuff is. All right, so this is the Rippaverse. This is his website, okay? Dude, this is ridiculous. So here we are. His campaign's doing pretty good. He's over $500,000 on AlphaCore. And again, financially, this stuff is very successful because he has a huge following. A lot of people there to stroke his ego. Over $2 million on that one. ISOM number 1, over $3 million. I mean, I'm not saying that this guy is not making the money. Obviously, he's making the money. But a lot of people are stroking his ego. So now he's got this success, and he's talking about, I think he was talking about doing a video game. He's got some animations going on. He's going to start bleeding money soon if this keeps up. I mean, he's got a warehouse. He's got employees. He's not running a very lean operation. If you're an independent comic creator, if you're going solo, if you're doing this yourself, if you don't have the backing of a third party, you have to watch your money. You have to budget things correctly. And this guy thinks he's the next Stan Lee, and his pride is getting in the way, and he's about to mess up. He's about to mess up because now he's got some legal issues. So he's got to pay some legal fees. He's got to pay some legal fines. That's going to be a drain on his money, and he's just going too far too fast. All right, so let's actually, this is where it gets ridiculous. Look at this. He's got membership tiers. And the highest one, the Ultra, is almost $100 a month. What the hell? Like, are you serious right now? And look at the perks you get. Voting / focus groups and community memberships. So you get to join a forum. Okay, I can find different forums and join for free, dude. 30% off merch plus free shipping. If you're paying $99 a month, how much are you really saving with only 30% off? Engagement. You have to pay for engagement? Exclusive wallpapers. Who is paying for wallpapers in the year 2023? You see what I mean about this guy really being drunk on his own ego? That's insane. That is insane. So let's talk about some of the legal issues going on with Rippa. Let's talk about some of the legal issues. So if we go back to, let's go back to YouTube.
Not during that. No. During that period of time.
All right. So here he is talking to Nick Rekeita. Now, if you don't know who Nick Rekeita is, Nick Rekeita also has a YouTube channel called Rekeita Law. He is a lawyer, and Eric is having some legal issues. So let's talk about the legal issues that Eric is going through right now. So number one, he's in a dispute over the name of the comic, ISOM, because apparently it is also the what do you call it? The acronym or whatever of another organization called the International School of Ministry, a Christian organization. And they were trying to get in contact with Eric July because, Eric July his comic is called ISOM, and, there's some conflicting issues there. People are confusing the International School of Ministry with the ISOM comic book. They don't want to be associated with it. And Eric is not willing to negotiate with these people. He's not willing to sit down and talk with these people. He's calling them out as like fake Christians and stuff, even though this is a guy who claims to be a Christian himself. He's calling them fake Christians. He's saying it's so pathetic, dude. It's so absolutely pathetic. And really, this is not that big of an issue. Like, you could solve this pretty damn easily. So, for example, look at Spider-Man. The comic book is not called Spider-Man. The comic book is called The Amazing Spider-Man. Why? Because there was probably somebody that came up with the name Spider-Man before Stan Lee did, all right? So, to protect themselves, they called the comic book The Amazing Spider-Man. The X-Men comics are not called X-Men. They're called The Uncanny X-Men. Like, you see where we're going with this? So instead of calling the book ISOM, all he needs to do is just call it like The Incredible ISOM, or The Adventures of ISOM. Like, it's really not that big of a deal to fix this. But because he has this ego, he has this pride, and he has to stroke his pride, he can't let it go. He has to fight this battle. And his excuse for this is that, ISOM is named after my great-great-grandfather, whoever, ISOM Knox. And, he's like, it's named after this guy. And it's like, dude, it doesn't matter. From a legal standpoint, it doesn't matter. And he doesn't seem to be getting that. And this gets to another issue with Eric. Is that, all right, Eric claims to be from the streets. He claims that he used to be a former gangbanger, whatever. I kind of doubt the validity of that backstory, but let's roll with it. So a lot of where Eric is coming from on this stuff is he's basically looking at it from a perspective of the streets, street justice. Everything's done on the basis of respect, put respect on my name, and all this stuff. And what he doesn't seem to realize is that doesn't matter. Street justice stops at the streets. Once you get into a courtroom, it doesn't matter. What matters is the legal system. What matters is the laws of the United States. And Eric doesn't seem to realize that. And honestly, it's not a surprise that Eric doesn't realize this, because again, he is a self-described anarcho-capitalist, a libertarian. He hates the state. So I don't expect this guy who holds these type of political beliefs to really understand the legal system, to really understand how laws work, to really understand what applies legally and what doesn't. I don't expect him to have a real good comprehension of that, nor do I expect him to care about that. But the thing is, dude, you live in a society. You live in a society with laws. It's called the United States. There is a legal system. And what matters legally and what matters on the streets are two completely different things. And what matters on the streets really doesn't matter at all. The International School of Ministry has been around since I think the 1990s, if I'm not mistaken. They had the name before you, dude. So they have more of a legal precedent in their argument. And again, this could be solved really easily by just changing the name of the comic. Just call it The Adventures of ISOM, The Incredible ISOM. But no, he's in a fight with this Christian organization, and because he's Eric D. July, and he's God's gift to man, and he's the next Stan Lee, he has to fight. He has to win. And that's something that really gets me about this guy, and about everybody in like his little political corner, is that they love the fight. They love the challenge. Like, they get off on fighting. They get off on conflict. And they can never let it go. They can never compromise. They can never negotiate. It's like, no, I have to win, 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 win. And if I don't win, if I show any sort of weakness, it makes me look pathetic. And it's like, no, dude, this is childish. This is not masculine. It's this alpha male mentality, and it's not really an alpha. It's not alpha. Like, if you actually break down an alpha mentality, like, this guy and people like him are so far from an alpha mentality. They're beta. They really are. This is pathetic. This is childish. This is some street justice, just nonsense. And it doesn't matter. And Nick Rekeita, who is actually on Eric's side here and is a friend of Eric, is trying to explain this to him. All right? I'm going to put on the closed captioning so I know where I'm at in this. He's trying to explain this stuff to him. And Eric just refuses to listen. So the other legal issue, and this one is just... I couldn't believe it when I heard it. So he was doing like this work with a charity organization for kids with cancer. And he was talking about how, his fans can help donate books, his comic, to this organization. And it's like, dude, these kids are dying with cancer. These kids are going through the worst experience of their life. This family, and talking as someone who's had to deal with cancer in their own family, these families are going through one of the worst experiences of their life. They don't want your shitty comic. They need money. Now, eventually, Eric apparently got the message, because eventually, after all the criticism coming his way, the dude did finally decide to donate $8,000. But originally, this was just about sending comic books. And it's like, dude, I mean, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you're not on that level, man. Yes, you did a cool thing, but you're not the next Stan Lee, dog. You're not the next Stan Lee. Like, how arrogant do you have to be, man? So there was that whole legal issue with the charity. And then if we move...
No, he didn't go any.
Like, it just gets worse. So this guy, I think his name was Riley, shows up at the warehouse that Eric has, and he's like putting stickers or something, and it's a public area and stuff, and he didn't actually go into the warehouse or anything, but Eric is trying to say, this guy was trespassing, this guy was endangering my employees and stuff. And he wasn't trespassing because, number one, it's a public area. And then Eric's trying to give like this whole spiel about, it was gated and stuff. And he's talking about how, there's a gate on this side of the parking lot and a gate on that side of the parking lot. But then he explains like, there's actually an area that's not gated off. And it's like, dude, if that parking lot is accessible to the main road, which according to Eric, it is not a private property. It is not a private area. All right. This is not a residential area. It's a business area. It is public property. The public can access it. It would be like in my area, for example, if I went to McDonald's and I pick up a Big Mac There is a mall right across from my McDonald's. If I go and drive into the parking lot of that mall, I am not trespassing. I can park there and I can eat my Big Mac. That is not trespassing. And Eric doesn't seem to understand that just because your warehouse is located there and other businesses are located there, it's still a public area, dude. And this guy did not go into your warehouse. And Rekeita is trying to explain this to Eric, and Eric's not getting it because, again, Eric's all about that street justice. You know, he doesn't care about the government. He doesn't care about the state and its laws. Blah, 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 blah. So Nick is trying to explain this stuff to him. And again, Nick Rekeita is a freaking lawyer. He's trying to explain this stuff, these legal issues to Eric. Eric does not want to listen, but let's just play it.
Rebuttal, and simply say that inscriptions, markings, and stuff like that is referring to graffiti, to marker, to something that's actually applied to the property that would take some sort of effort to remove. And if you read a little farther into the statute, you'll actually see them explain that there has to be some sort of pecuniary loss or economic burden in either the damage to the property or the removal from the property. And mere incidental annoyances in removing something like a sticker doesn't usually measure up. Now, of course, there are some stickers, right? That a huge sticker that you slap on, you got to hire someone to like use solvents and shit to remove it. These look like relatively small stickers that would pop off without any effort. I think you'd be on real shaky ground. Not you, sorry, you weren't there, but anyone would be on real shaky ground trying to justify putting a hole in someone over those stickers, or even suggesting that a prosecutor would, or a cop even would write an infractionary ticket on this misdemeanor offense. Like, there's no way, man. It's not spray paint.
Well, again, it's not necessarily we see it that way. Definitely considering that, you know, there were drawings that were.
It doesn't matter how you see it. It matters how the law sees it. And Nick is trying to explain this whole thing to him. Like, the guy did not vandalize his freaking store. Now, Eric may not see it that way, but the law sees it differently.
That were actually there, and there's some weird stuff that was read on it. And, you know, I'm not going to sit up here, wrote on it. I'm not going to sit here and repeat it by any means. But, you know, I see that, you know, that being your sort of position, and that it's always been the case, or you feel like that's generally the case of to justify putting a whole.
That's not Nick's position. That's the position of the law. And again, like, Eric doesn't care. I mean, he again, anarcho-capitalist, libertarian. He doesn't care about what the legal definition is. He doesn't care about what the state says that something is. No, it's like, well, this is how I see it. This is how you see it. Well, that's what court is for, dude. It's to say, well, it doesn't matter how you see it. It doesn't matter how this other guy sees it. It matters what the law says. All right, that's why we're called a nation of laws, not a nation of people. People have opinions. Opinions don't hold up in court, dude.
Or attempting to put a hole in someone. Our guys don't see it that way, and I've seen people get aired out for a lot less. However, I don't even think
I would highly suggest an alternative opinion on counsel if you think a sticker with a $20 bill under it justifies. If that's their legal advice.
Not the argument, though. That's where I think the gaslighting is, though, Nick, because that's not the position. The position isn't that, okay, I'm trying to make the argument that to justify putting a hole in someone. What I'm talking about, and what the only argument it is that I'm making in this regard, because again, shooting someone over a sticker, that would be silly. Though it wasn't simply that. I think it's being kind of disingenuous to even just kind of classify it as, oh, this guy just merely, just being funny, just put a couple of stickers up that was, you know, they just threw on there, and like that, there was nothing being said or no drawings or any of that had anything to do with
equation. I don't know what the was there a threat of violence?
Well, yeah, of course there's been actionable threats, and my argument, but even
what's
that
the threat?
The reason the guy was there was because of that. He's recorded himself on video saying that, well, this is supposedly an actionable threat. Whether you now the argument is that we think
Riley's retarded. His legal opinions are irrelevant.
Well, no. I'm saying that's what.
Like,
all right. So my position is someone, first of all, is stalking. For someone to drive across the country to appear at a business that again isn't public, and when I say it's not public, Rekeita, I'm not saying that someone can't access it. That's not the argument it is that I'm making. I'm saying that this is not something that there's no commerce happening there, right? In that specific building that we are at. The only way that you can get in, there are two ways that you can get in. There's a gate, there's a private gate that you can get in that way, or you can drive. There is a road where you can kind of drive in, but that does not face, it's not a road.
You can drive into a driveway into the parking lot, right?
Yeah, you can drive into a driveway into the parking lot, and that's why our stuff is strategic.
Is there a gate on that driveway into the parking lot?
No. There's not into that parking lot. No, there's no gate. The gate is around on the other side, which is the only other way to access it. However, where we're at, you cannot drive. There's no place to go going that direction towards our building. That will then, like, you can't. There's no reason to be over there other than, let's say, again, you're coming to see us, you're invited or something of that nature. There's no drive-through. Like, our building is sectioned that way, the way that it is. It's us, and that's it. That gate that is there, and that's it. You cannot drive through our building to get, or our side of that building to get somewhere else. That's not how. Is there a gate
blocking off that side of the building?
Yes, correct. On that side, there absolutely is a gate blocking both sides, actually, because on the end of that street, or not a street, I guess that road, whatever you want to call it, it is the drive, the parking lot, right, if you will. There are two gates on either side. This is why he drove through, had to turn around to get out, because that's the only way that you can get in or out on that particular side. So again,
clarify, please. Sorry, can you said at first that there was a gate on one side, but the other side didn't have a gate, and there was a driveway from the road into it.
Correct. That side is still the same, but I mean, you have to see it, is what it is that I'm saying.
Do you have a picture?
The other, I'm certainly not showing it online. I do have one for sure. And I'm sure.
Can you privately send it to me? I won't pull it up. Can you message it to me?
I guess, yeah. But I'm gonna explain how it is that it is. Yes, sure. Nick, you can get to it from the road, and there's no gate there. What I'm saying is the only other way to get in is a gate on the opposite side. So, for example, our building is at the end of this lot, if you wanna call it that. You can get out during that lot, but there are two gates on both sides, right? That's the only way you can get in, and the only way you can get out without driving through the side that the idiot came from, right?
But
that's what I'm saying.
I know, but this is so confusing, because now you're saying there's gates on either side.
Yes.
But then you're saying that he drove through another side and got in.
So look at it like three sides, because there's nothing but fencing on the other on one side, right? So you have a fence. Look at it like this, like you got a fence, right? And then on opposite sides of that fence, right, is our building, right? You can get out, so get on the street, do whatever you need to do. There are two sides. If you went left or if you went right, there are gates on both sides. There is only one way, if you're not entering through that gate, to get into where our building is. Not everybody else's building. To get into where our building is, there's only one way to get in, not using those two gates.
So there's a way to get in without using the gate.
Correct.
Okay, but yeah, like you see the issue there, right? That there is a publicly accessible way in without a gate.
Issue as far as what?
Well, I mean,
oh my, yo. I mean, like, Nick is trying to help this guy. Like, he's like, it's a public area, dude. It's not private property. It's a public. Oh God, man. Like, this is like, it's so funny that it hurts. I mean, this guy's a buffoon. And because he doesn't care about the law or the legal definitions of things, you know, he has his own type of justice. He has his own type of, you know, legal system and stuff, you know, the streets. And let's just continue.
Okay, so you can have, if you have 3 entrances and 2 gates, and one of them is just an ungated entrance to a public road, that's not fenced in. It's not gated.
Not from that side. It's not. No.
Yeah, no.
But I'm saying, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean as far as the issue? I'm like, I'm not understanding what it is you're meaning there.
But if you can drive in from a public road, I'm having trouble seeing it as private. Is all. That's
all right. So now it's more of a I guess semantics, or you want to argue illegal. I'm not saying that you can't get. I'm not making the argument that you can't get there. Like anybody can't just drive up into there, let's say, to get to our building. That's not the argument I'm making. The only position it is that I have is that our building, as far as accessing it and being in there, like anywhere near there, the only reason why someone would need to be there is if they were invited there.
Or if they just drove into the driveway.
Yeah, you just drove into. When I'm talking about
but you don't need an invitation to drive into the driveway, right?
No, you don't need an invitation to drive into the driveway. What I'm saying is there's no reason for someone to be there. I think there's been some confusion because some people maybe saw like a logo on the side or something.
And this is again what Eric doesn't understand. They don't need a reason to be there. It's a public area. Again, he has this different, he's not looking at this from a legal perspective. He's not looking at this from the perspective of, okay, this is what the law says. But Eric doesn't care about the law because, again, he's a libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, doesn't give a damn about the state, doesn't care what the law says. He has his own type of interpretation, but that's the reason why we have laws. It doesn't matter how you see it. It doesn't matter what the interpretation is. It matters what the laws are, dude. That's why we live in a society. We don't live with different islands of individuals. Like, you don't get to make up your own rules. You live in a society. You have to live by the rules by which we all agree by. Or at least the majority of people, the people with common sense, agree by. Which, again, if you're a libertarian, you have that kind of mentality. I go in a whole spiel of how dumb libertarianism is, but let's continue.
Thought it was a storefront that was facing the store. It's not.
Oh no, I don't think it's a storefront.
Well, I'm just making the case, but that's what I mean, and that's the point of contention, Nick. When I'm saying like, hey, it's not this guy showed up to a place that is a private location. It's not our public address. There's no reason for there to be commerce or anything as far as us doing business with other people. There's no you can't even get into our actual building without either keypad access or what have you. That's the only way you can get inside our actual building.
Did he go in the building?
No, he didn't go in it.
Okay,
he wouldn't have been able to get in there. Yeah.
On the open side that he would have had to drive through to get in, because obviously he doesn't have the gate key. And you said, I think you said he drove in from that open side, right? Right. Is there like a sign that says no access or private property or anything like that? No trespassing? Is there any clear posting that would indicate to someone they can't come in there?
No.
Okay, you're on real shaky ground saying it's private then, man. Like legally.
Right. Again, you're using private in a context that I'm not using it in.
The only context that matters here, Eric, is what the law says. The legal context. That's what you're not understanding, dude. Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, this is so painful.
So I'm okay with you using it legally.
Mine's the legal context because I'm answering legal questions. That's all. Correct.
And I totally empathize with that and what it is you're saying. That has absolutely nothing to do with the argument it is that I'm making.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
That I have. I've never, obviously, yeah, he was there. No shit, you can get there by just driving up in there. That's never been the point of contention by anybody here.
Okay.
The only argument that we're making when we're talking about public versus private is that it's not a storefront. There's no reason for anybody to be over there. We don't have that as our public address. There's no reason for anybody to be there. That's the only position it is that we have.
So when you say there's no reason to be there, I'm just curious, like, and don't take this the wrong way because I'm trying to understand. What's the relevance of that?
The relevance of that because there was no reason for him to be there.
Right, but like, do you need a reason to be somewhere in the U.S.?
Say what?
Do you need a reason to be somewhere in the United States?
As far as what?
I don't know.
Well, the guy went there. All right, so
I sat in a parking lot the other day. I didn't have a reason. I just needed a place to park.
Okay.
I know he's there. I know he's there to visit your business.
Well, that's the only point it is that I'm making. A psychopath showed up and he was not invited there. That's the point it is that I'm making.
Is Riley? I mean, Riley's dumb, but is he a psychopath?
Yeah, something like it. I like to think he's a crazy son of a bitch for sure.
Are you scared of Riley?
No, but I cannot not take that serious considering that he showed up to a place of business that I'm not there, and I have employees. Nick, surely you can empathize with that, right?
Again, I said I wouldn't want him to do it to me.
Let me finish real quick. Somebody sees a fat, stinky person, doing whatever gay shit outside of a building.
Okay, and see, like, this This is something else he always does. Every time he gets defensive, his vocabulary switches to insult, 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 insult. Which, if you've actually looked at like the studies when it comes to measuring intelligence, when your vocabulary consists of stuff like, oh, this gay shit, or when you have to resort to name calling, when your vocabulary is limited to that level of, I'm going to say, childish insults, there has been studies shown that people who do that and always default back to that, which Eric does every single time that he's challenged or criticized, people that do that have been scientifically proven to not be very fucking intelligent. This is not a very intelligent guy. And before people say, oh, he made $3 million. Listen, you don't have to be smart to make money. There's a lot of stupid people that have made a lot of money. It's happened. All right. So I think you guys get the gist of this. And I do want to talk about some other stuff before we wrap up the stream. But I want to get to something that I posted over on the Geek Getaways channel, who is actually streaming right now. And I'm actually going to put the link in the comments section so you guys can go check out his stream. I'm going to be heading over there to watch it after I'm done with my stream. But I did post on his community tab, and I wanted to talk to you guys about this post I put out. And because this ties into, actually, I'm going to pull up my pop culture channel because I want to use this as a reference, so you guys can understand where I'm coming from on this. I'm going to pull up one of my old videos. Let's see, where is it? There it is. The real racism in Hollywood. I want to talk about this. So, in this video, I talk about the subtle racism of the left and of Hollywood. And I was really talking about the whole Black Little Mermaid thing and how they have like these token black characters. You know, like, congratulations, you turned Ariel black. Did that bring one black family out of poverty? Did that change anything in the black community? Did that fix anything in black neighborhoods? No, it did not. It is a shallow attempt at trying to make yourself look morally superior. And there's a subtle racism here because if you really care, if you really believe that black characters could stand on their own, you wouldn't always be trying to change characters that have come before. The only reason you made Ariel black is to, one, make yourselves feel better. And these are usually white liberal elites, all right, as I pointed out in this video. But it's to make themselves feel better. It's to help them sleep at night. It's to dissuade some misguided sense of guilt. But it actually does nothing to help black people. It's very shallow. And the reason they decided to make Ariel black, or like in the comics, to make Tim Drake, Robin, gay, even though there was no indication of that before, is not because they care about gay people, or not because they care about black people, or not because they believe a gay character can stand on their own, or because a black character can stand on their own. If they actually believed that, they would be creating original black characters, original gay characters, or they would bring previously established minority characters that already exist and be giving them more of the spotlight. But they don't do that. They use previously established characters like Robin, like Ariel, and they just change up the sexual orientation or change up the race because, number one, there's already a built-in audience there for the Little Mermaid. So they're like, okay, we can make a quick buck out of this, get, some controversy going here. It's super freaking lazy, all right? And it also says that these people don't actually believe a black character can stand on their own. They couldn't create original property because they don't really believe that an original black character could stand on their own because they don't really believe in black people or believe in gay people. So there's a subtle racism here. And the thing is, Eric July And what is happening with his situation is the same thing, but instead of it being on the left, it's happening on the right. It's a subtle form of racism. So I want to read this to you guys. This is what I posted over on the Geek Getaways channel. Shout out to him. This is what I said, and I quote, "What is kind of sad to me is that Eric doesn't realize what these people like Az, The Blaze, Nerdrotic, and others are doing to him. Even though the comic sucks, they're all hyping him up, and you have to ask why. Well, I think the answer is pretty simple. He's the token black guy for them. They can show him off and say, hey, look, this black guy is on our side, and he's got a big following, so we're not racist." Which is funny, because that's what they accuse the left of. And to be fair, the left does it too. They'll throw token black characters everywhere as well. But the right is doing the same thing the left is doing, and it's just so fucking hypocritical. Eric doesn't even realize he's being used, and his ego blinds him to the truth. So I will say this once again. There is racism. There is racist on both sides of the political aisle. It takes different forms, and sometimes it's very subtle, but it's there. And Eric doesn't even realize he's being a victim of it right now because he's too full of pride and ego to see it. Again, these people haven't even read this comic, and those who have said it sucks, but it doesn't matter. He's our token black guy. Gotta support him. We'll criticize the left, and we'll criticize the mainstream comic book industry for putting identity politics over quality of story and over good writing. We'll criticize them for that, but then we'll do the same fucking thing on our side because we're hypocrites. And I say, fuck you both. All right. So I want to end it with this. We've been talking about how bad Eric's comic is, right? Okay. I think one of the biggest issues with Eric July's comic book is this. The man is not willing to commit to anything. He's very vague about stuff. And I think he even admitted himself that what we see in ISOM number 1 is a first draft. Number 1, that is so amateurish. That is something you learned back in high school English when you're doing your essays. You never publish the first draft. It's a first draft, dude. It's meant to be rewritten. It's meant to be edited multiple times if need be. You publish the final draft, and your final draft should not be your first draft.